It is time for a discussion, police vetting, police reforms. We watched the police vetting the past couple of days. And of course, we've had the discussions and different conversations that have emanated from that exercise. And joining me in studio this morning is Mwenda Mbijiwe. He is a counterterrorism consultant and trainer, also a security expert. We've talked to him before, very well versed with matters security. And of course, security an integral part of the structures of a country. So very important that that is very well understood by our viewers this morning. And feel free to be part of this discussion. Engage with us. You can tweet me at Sophia Wanuna, and also you can text us 22155. Our phone numbers will be on your screen. You could call in as well. Mwenda, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good to see you.
I'm happy to see you again.
Yes. So police vetting, first it's delayed from the first time it was supposed to happen. There were several challenges that were experienced, but we saw it get rolled out, beginning with the senior police officers, some of them. But to begin from the point of what is the essence when a country decides, when the security agencies decide to get into such an exercise, what usually is the essence of it? What is the focus? What is the point? What informs such an exercise?
Thank you. When the former president, Mwai Kibaki, constituted the famous Ransley Commission,
right.
That was a starting point for police reforms. It was called the National Task Force for Police Reform, and they presented their findings to the president in 2009. Remember, part of what was alleged to be the problems that bedeviled us during the PEV, post-election violence, was problems with the police service. And so part of what the Waki Commission recommended was a thorough overhaul of the police force. Then it's called the force, now it's a service. And so the president, in line with the recommendation of the Waki Commission, formed the National Task Force for Police Reform, headed by the Honorable Justice retired Philip Lansley. And so Philip and his commission set the foundation for the reforms that we are seeing today in the police. They put up their report, presented to the president, and made over 200 recommendations. Part of them was the vetting we are seeing right now. So this is only part of the over 200 recommendations that are yet, part of them have been implemented, and many more that will be implemented in the coming days to see a clean police. So it's important to clean our police, because the observance of law and order in a democratic nation is the only sure foundation of democracy. And so if we have a dirty police, we cannot have a good nation. And it's important to clean it. And what a dirt we've been seeing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the exercise rolled out. And for you, of course, you've been following what the grilling exercise. Let's begin with the composition of the panel.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that, and who we are seeing as the people, putting these questions to the security officers?
Of course, the panel is composed of the National Police Service Commission itself, all the commissioners, and then they have added the top police command brass, the IG and his deputies, and the in charge of Directorate of the Criminal Investigations. But also they have brought in the experienced eyes of the senior command of the Nyumba Kumi initiative, the PC Kaguthi, and my counterpart in security, Mr. Wairunga. So I think the panel is competent. I have completely no reservations. Earlier on, when Kavulundi seemed to have an image or credibility crisis, I thought we had a moribund chairman of the National Police Service Commission, but I think Kavulundi will go into history as one of those men that have really, really done this nation great service. I'm thoroughly awed and impressed at the great work they have achieved. When I saw them retire officers who have now gone to court to challenge that decision. One of the two has been perceived by the police as untouchable. And when he came down as a tumbling domino, then I was like, whoa, Kavulundi is serious.
Yeah.
Well, I thought when they put a dismembered head in his office, he got scared and decided not to implement the reforms. But looks like the gentleman has guts.
He's decided to forge on.
Oh yes, I mean, is for better for worse, like marriage. He's decided, I mean it.
Yes.
Ukiavulia, as he says Swahili, Oga, I think he decided to take the bath after all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the beginning, the fact that they began with the senior officers, of course the juniors perhaps once in a while have been able to catch the process and just, listen in on what's being said, the questions being put to them, being in the hot seat. That particular decision, you think that is the way it should, begin from the very top going down?
Yes. Actually, I have friends in the police service. Personally, my family, I was counting this morning, my family has produced about 7 serving officers in the different forces, including my father in the GSU, my uncles in the police, my cousins in the army. One of my cousins actually died in Sashangwan. The Sashangwan fire is one of the police officers. So for me, it didn't matter where it started, whether with the junior officers or the senior officers. It's good that it started with the senior officers, so that all the junior officers, as many as will go through the vetting, can know this is no monkey business. This is serious business. And the questions, of course, a few civil societies have complained about the thoroughness of the questioning. Especially, there was a complaint that they're allowing the interviewees to evade questions. But anyhow, I think they've done a superb job. Last week I had time to watch quite a number of them because I'm interested in police reforms. I am one of the many people that made presentations to the commission that now is defunct. It was called Kenya Police Reforms Commission, which is part of the 200 recommendation by the Lansley report. And so for me, I've kept tabs with police reforms, and I was impressed to see these men held into account. Yeah. Okay.
All right. And the questions you've touched on that, the things we're seeing these officers being asked, it's hard questions, about first their personal, there's wealth questions coming out there, their conduct and work, what they've been able to achieve, if there's the public participation and what has been said of them, then they're also being put to account to, explain what happened. Has it been conducted in the way it should? Has it met the standards? Of course, having seen perhaps this kind of exercises elsewhere.
Yes, I think so. To be frank, I think the police feared that day could come. But this vetting started everywhere. Everyone was vetted. I was telling a friend the other day, even our politicians, though we don't like them as much, and we call them names, they go through a thorough vetting during the voting.
Yeah.
We the citizens, the voters, vet them. We look at their character. In my tribe, they say, if you want to know your father is not your father, run for office. You will hear it in the field. People start talking. As in, they will investigate you. They will check you around. But this process of vetting, for me, in the implementation of our constitution, we can't call it new constitution anymore, but our constitution, I think this was a turning point. The police may have resisted it. There was a lot of resistance, by the way, initially, at the police. Remember when there was a suggestion that we have an IG who is not, from any of the forces.
Yeah, does not have an understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, the police fought that like hell.
Yeah.
They said, no, he must be one of us. Anyhow, they needed a manager in there, and we can only give Mr. Kimayo quite some time to be able to evaluate if he's delivering or not. But I think Kimayo had a problem at the vigilance house and whatever other house that he's working with, because I think there is Harambe House and vigilance house where the two police are based. Because the kind of dirt you see now and you hear coming from his officers is shocking. Yes. You hear of officers who are not working for one full year. Someone is seated at home. He goes to the bank every end of the month, and the man is not working. Kimayo, being a former policeman or GSU officer, must have been finding it would have been harder if it was a civilian in his place. Yes. Imagine him as a former officer still having those kind of radical officers under him. You could have a reformed IG, but these guys will create a bubble around the IG. They will pamper him with things are happening, but they will run their cartels.
Right.
And what Kavulundi Commission and the panelists are doing is to crack that bubble, to burst that bubble, so that we can have really visible, enduring, and long-lasting police reforms.
Yeah, and of course there are those who've chosen not to be part of the exercise. They know that
they should be prosecuted. I don't know why. I was trying to read through the Ransley report last night.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe I missed the point because I didn't have the time. It's over 300 pages. Maybe Ransley should have said, or the Police Reforms Commission should have said, if any officer will opt not to go through the vetting, then they'll be subjected through another form of accountability. Because why do you think you should serve as a police officer? Then we should not hold you into account. We should ask you about questions about your finances. We should ask you questions about your character. One of the officers that has been retired by the commission now, is even his colleagues were excited. I received phone calls from everywhere. People are like, oh, thank God he's down. Because they're like, his character is unbearable. He's rude to us. He'll sack you with his mouth. You just say, you're sacked, and that's it. It's the end of your life. So they ask questions about their character, about their temperament, about their families. When you don't want to be asked those questions and you want to be a top cop in this country, hey, you don't have a top cop. I think we have something else.
You have something else.
So whoever has not gone through that vetting should be put through another process of being held accountable. And I think I heard the chairman say, Mr. Kavulundi, that they have recommended, even those that have been asked to retire or sacked, they have recommended to the Ethics Commission that they go and check them out. They only said they don't have a problem with human rights. It's not an abuse of human rights. Whether it's an abuse of ethics or corruption, then the Anti-Corruption Ethics Commission will go and check into that.
Okay. And what are you seeing happening as the results come out, as the panel, the vetting panel comes out after, this batch and says, okay, this is what we found. Of course, there are those most likely that will be found unfit, and then those who will be found fit and, given some perhaps cautionary words going forward in terms of their conduct and how to continue with their service. What is likely to come out of that? What do you think this even is sending as a message to the other officers?
The common denominator is change has come. You cannot fight with change. I wish those that have gone to court goodest of luck, if that's the right way to say it. I wish best of luck. I just wanted to be comical about it.
Yes.
I wish them best of luck as they go to court. But whichever way the court rules, I don't want to preempt it, but you cannot fight change. When change has come, those who fight change are kicked out by change. The constant of life, the one thing that is constant about life is change.
That it will for sure happen.
You can guess that. You don't even need to, and you don't need a prophet to be able to know change will be here tomorrow morning.
Yes.
There will be change. Now, those who fight change always is fighting change is like fighting with water in the ocean. You fight with it, it drowns you, and then after it's done with your life, it pushes you to the edge and says, I'm done with this guy, go and bury him. That's what change does to you. However, I think the effect of this is going to be a more accountable police. It's going to clean impunity from our police. It's going to instill values. One of the things that the commission, the Ransley report recommended was that a commission be formed that, among other things, would come up with a code of ethics for the police. And I was amazed to hear one officer say that he used to have a matatu, but when the rules of the game changed, he sold his matatu and he's now serving only. And actually the panelists commended him for that. Code of ethics said an officer should not be able to, run business, especially like matatu industry, where there will be a conflict of interest. So this is going to instill values. It's going to instill discipline. Above all, I think it's going to restore public confidence to the police, because the Ransley report said that the country, the citizens, were completely unhappy with the police.
Yes, and it has ranked ever since poorly in as far as confidence.
It's shocking to me. I was in Nyeri some weeks back, and I met this woman in her shop there was a security expert in town and requested to have me talk with her and advise her how she could secure her property. She's been robbed, I think, like 6 times last year.
Wow.
She even showed me bullet holes on her shop when I went there. Then I said, why don't you involve the police in your security arrangement? Oh, she was screaming. She said, those are the worst people to use. She said, the criminals will go and bribe them. They'll be back here again. She said, I've tried it 6 times. It didn't work out for me.
Wow.
And that's what every Kenyan is feeling. That's what Wanjiko is feeling. That we cannot trust our police. That I only go to police when I have to. The other day, 2 days ago, I was on the road, and there's this matatu ahead of me. Some officers came, pulled down the makanga. The conductor, and the guy had to take off. He left them with his jacket and took off. And I thought, that's what Kenyans think. If I know justice with the police, I would rather take off. And he took off.
And he took off.
Yeah.
Mwenda, I want us to take a short break and continue with this discussion in a short while, as we also engage Peter Kiama, who's director of IMLU, to have an understanding just of the perception of this particular exercise and what we're likely to see in coming days, because as you have rightfully said, a very important sector, integral to securing Kenyans, because there are many times, even with our poll questions, we've asked, do you feel safe as a Kenyan? And this security officers, their service is integral in making sure that happens for everybody. So stay with us. We are back in a moment. Welcome back to Morning Express, 7:33 a.m. We're glad you're watching. Also joining us on set is Peter Kiama, who's director of IMLU. IMLU is Independent Medical Legal Unit, to be part of our discussion. Thank you, sir, for making it.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, police vetting, what we are discussing this morning, and in as far as the exercise is concerned, you've been able to watch it and follow, and also know what has informed it, as we've been discussing with Mbijiwe here. What's your take on what you've been able to, you've had the questions that have been put forward to the senior security officers. What's your take on the exercise?
Well, first of all, to say that because of the nature of this piece of work, police reforms, it's quite a task. And therefore, what we've done as civil society is that we have come together under the police reforms working group of 10 NGOs to, of course, support the National Police Service Commission to execute its task, but also to support citizens to engage with the process. We talk about the demand side of human rights, that we're able to prepare citizens to be able to engage with the process. So far, we would say that we commend, I commend the Commission for, one, having started the process. Because the process in the beginning faced a lot of resistance, as my colleagues has mentioned earlier. And therefore, the fact that the Commission set up a year ago has been able to hire the Inspector General, the 2 deputies, and set up an office within 1 year and start the vetting process, I think is commendable. And the fact that we have seen results out of the first round of vetting, the first 7 officers, we've seen 3 found unsuitable to continue serving, and the Commission took the bold step to say, however senior you are in this institution, if you are not suitable according to the law, then you should leave. I think that's quite commendable to start with. So I think it has started well. But of course, there are issues that we would like to discuss with the Commission, and we are discussing with the Commission in terms of how can we improve the process as well.
What needs improvement, in your opinion, with the process?
One of the key pillars of governance under the Constitution of Kenya 2010 is public participation in governance. Now, the vetting of police officers is a governance exercise, and therefore citizens would need to engage very actively and very robustly in that particular exercise. Because for us, police vetting is only going to succeed if we ensure there is a robust public participation. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because the National Police Service Commission, in vetting each individual police officer, is relying on information submitted by Kenyans. Of course, there's the file, the personnel file that has particular information. There's information from other government institutions. But the information from citizens who interact with the police, the officer on the beat, on a daily basis is critical to this exercise. And therefore we are saying we do feel that so far the process is okay, but we feel there's inadequate citizen participation in the process.
Well, what are your thoughts, Mwenda? Because I remember ahead of actually I think it was a day before, just a few days before the exercise began, we spoke to Kavuludi, the chairman. We hosted him here, and he made it very clear. They have in the past, and we did even read those stories here for the news about people just being allowed to come in, participate, share whatever information they may have on these officers. And also what was being said very clearly is that it's not exercise to witch hunt, that if you're going to bring information about somebody, you know, have proof, evidence about it. But do you feel that participation has been sufficient?
Well, this far listening to all the officers that were vetted and all the questions that came their way, it seemed that the public, sent in their complaints or their, issues about them. What my brother has said about the civil society, complaint or suggestion is that this time be increased, especially now. They give 7 days to receive complaints or views from the public for over 180 officers that will be in the next vetting process. Next vetting sitting. Now you're wondering 7 days. So the civil society working group asked if this could be increased for at least 10 days. They didn't say the public did not, participate. You'll be surprised with what you see now with the few officers who have been vetted. Now people are energized to talk. Oh, you hear stuff. And I'm telling you, quite a number of police commanders are quite dirty. Yeah. Many of them are good. It's not good to judge all of them. There's one who sat there and I was amazed at his financial integrity. He answered every question, and the commission did not have a problem with his finances. Most of these men actually had a lot of talk about their expertise, about their accomplishments, their operations. When it came to money and why you have 10 million, 100 million, they could not account for their money. Now, the public is going to talk. I believe women out there who have complained against some of these men or women, spouses who have been neglected are going to talk. And the lower cadres of the police are very excited at this process, by the way, because even in the police they know that reforms have been hindered in the police, not because the police didn't want. When you go to those young men and women who serve in the stations, the deplorable conditions under which they live, they tell you, we hope and pray that God could change this command at the top. When there was the talk for IG, maybe my brother may have caught it from the junior police, that they wanted a civilian to add the thing. They said, these are our boys, our dirty boys, they can't help us. Anyway, we are where we are. Let's hope. In my tribe we say, how do you eat a whole elephant? You don't kill it and eat it at once. You eat it piece by piece. And so we are eating this police thing piece by piece,
cleaning it up slowly, one room at a time. One of the biggest concerns around the service has always been extrajudicial killings. And are we seeing some of these issues being addressed, even as questions are being put to these commanders? Of course, they're in charge of people who are on the ground and will interact with different situations on a day-to-day basis. But are we seeing some of the key issues that face the service also being addressed as these individuals are being vetted?
You see, what has happened is that the commission has camera sessions and public sessions.
Okay.
The default is public, but the process has to be public. So the public can engage with it. Why am I saying that? Because part of the objectives of this process is to restore legitimacy and public trust in this institution. And therefore having this vetting in public really helps. Now, I wouldn't be able to clearly say what percentage of information has been provided with regard to human rights violations, because the camera sessions might be dealing with that, and we are not privy to it. But I do know from our networks across the country that there's very, very minimal public submission of information. And we are saying that moving forward, especially with the next lot of 182, we need to give more time. I'm happy that the commission has considered our request that we made earlier this week, and they have extended the timeline to 14 days.
Okay.
So there'll be 14 days now. But also the commission says that even if you submit the information after the deadline, it will still be considered as long as the officer has not been interviewed. So I think that's quite helpful, that we're able to give citizens enough time, because we run the risk of making this exercise a Nairobi County exercise. Because in Nairobi, many people access Twitter, Facebook, social media. They access the daily newspaper, the Standard, and the Nation, where the names are. Now, how many people in Mandera, in Lamu, in Moyale, can access, in Suba, can access the paper?
Yeah.
In Turkana, maybe only 10% can access the daily newspaper. So we are saying, let us reach out, and we are prepared to work with the commission to help in public outreach, because we need the public to go with us all the way for the next 2 years of vetting. This is going to take 18 to 24 months. So it's a serious, huge exercise that requires that all of us come together and work together to ensure that Kenyans work with us.
Okay.
Because if they don't, at the end of the 24 months, we run the risk of still having an illegitimate institution. Yeah. So and public participation will help us to get information on violations around torture, around extrajudicial executions, around extortion. There are huge extortion rings within the police service. And the unfortunate thing is that they extort the poor. They extort those who are in informal business.
Right.
Not the blue chip companies. So we would like to see those who suffer police abuse on a daily basis given a chance at the table to submit the information and to be assured of security.
Okay.
And we are happy that the chairperson of the commission has communicated this, but we are appealing that let there be constant, almost daily, weekly communication to the public.
Yeah, to the public, that there's that open, there's information that can come into them in as far as this is concerned. But for somebody watching and they're thinking, I have information or this and this happened, and they do not have proof or evidence of the same. I mean, what is the threshold in, I have a complaint, this person did this, when the commission is receiving all this information that is being said about the officers? What do they look at? What is that determines that, okay, we will put your question to Officer X when we are grilling him?
Certainly, whatever evidence anyone gives or complain, it has to be impeached against, the law, or rather the principle of truth.
Right.
They cannot allow every Dick, Tom, and Harry to complain and have, a file full of complaints that has no, real legal basis. That's why even what we've seen in previous vetting panels,
right,
they ask the complainant to swear an affidavit. I particularly was impressed at what I saw during the vetting of the cabinet secretaries. There's one particular one who lots of people had complaints, but I was impressed that whoever was complaining had gone to a lawyer, a commissioner of oaths, and sworn an affidavit. So it's not just every Dick, Tom, and Harry who says, okay, I have something against Wainuna, I'm going to write to Kavulundi. Kavulundi is also, he understands the principle of human rights, truth, justice. So they are not just going to allow anybody to complain. If you want to complain, then make it a real serious complaint, go to a lawyer, file an affidavit, and then we will take you a bit serious.
Okay, you have something to say on the same?
Yeah, what I would say is that the commission is proceeding on a balance of probability, not on beyond reasonable doubt basis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's not essentially a judicial process.
Correct.
And that's what you see. But I agree with my colleague that you do need people to provide credible evidence of their complaints, and the commission has informed us that they have investigators who check these things when they come to them, and they're able to help citizens draft their affidavits. So that's happening. So Kenyans should not worry that I can't afford a lawyer to go and swear me and all that. The commission is providing that. Once you submit your information, they are able to. So we shouldn't worry about the costs of submitting the information.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. After this process, of course, is complete, it will continue being in public. The officers will be vetting. But let's talk a little bit more about the bigger picture. After this exercise is done, the bigger reforms and what really also has to happen. It is a process that will take time, as you said, but there are other things in terms even of looking at the plight of the officers, their pay, their living standards, in terms of the infrastructure, how they're facilitated to conduct their work. What else must the government, those involved, these different stakeholders, be setting up, putting in place to ensure that this sector is, at the end, every Kenyan sitting back has trust and confidence in it? And also we have more people wanting to join. You know, it's not the one that since you failed examinations and now you cannot, then now go in there and try your hand, run that race and see if you win and qualify to be part of the service.
You realize in most nations, in particular the United States, you'll be shocked to know that the National Police Office, the top command, has only 12 senior officers.
Wow.
12.
Okay.
They control the policing services in a nation of over 300 million people. 12 officers. Then the police command and control structure is devolved to the states and counties in the US. Now, what Ransley report recommended was that we have a cartel of top police officers who are engrossed in corruption. They are the masters of impunity. And Ransley said we need to crack that bubble. We need to burst that bubble. That's what Kimayu has been under since he came to office. I can imagine the frustration around Mr. Kimayu. It's been, I guess he's a man of big guts to have withstood that pressure for 1 full year. Because if you have those kind of officers, men who come and park their car at the parking lot, senior deputy assistant commissioner, I don't know those titles, he sits at the parking lot, he has no office, he has no duties, he waits for the end of the month, goes to the bank. Now, going forward, you realize the National Police Service Commission wants to reduce the number of top police officers at the top. We must make sure they are few. And they are few and accountable. They have, they know their duties and responsibilities. One of the other things that the task force that was headed by Philip Ransley recommended was we develop a national policing, national security policy and a policing policy, so that as a policeman you know what is expected of you, how to do it, with which means to do it. With what means to do it. And also you realize after this process, therefore confidence will be instilled in the service. As you said, more Kenyans will want to go in, they even graduates. You won't have to wait to score some low grade in primary school or high school to join the police. Now it will become a professional service. The police are undergoing what the military went through during the days of Daudi Tonje. There was a general in the army who was a gutsy man, General Daudi Tonje. I don't know why they have not honored him in the Kenya at 50. Somebody should do that. Okay. Daudi Tonje had guts, and he said we must make the military in Kenya a professional force. He put structures for promotion. I have an uncle who serves in the police. He was employed in the 80s. Until today, he's still a police constable. From the 80s, he served close to 30 years. He's never found one promotion. Not because he has a bad discipline, but the police has no way to know who has served for what time, what rank he should get. In the military, it is set in policy that if you have served for this number of years, you should have attained this promotion. If you have not attained this promotion and this age has come, then you must retire.
Okay.
You see? So we must have a professional police force.
Your thoughts on that? Before we go to your question, one of our viewers is asking here.
As the civil society organizations, representing public interest in this particular matter, we are proceeding on 4 pillars in terms of moving forward and saying this is the new police service, from a police force to a police service. In the service that we foresee, we see 4 things. One, police welfare. Police welfare and capacity must be improved. We must take care of our police officers. Number 2 is accountability. The institution has to be accountable to the public. Number 3 is public participation. It's
Right.
clear through community policing, for example, the public, there has to be that partnership cemented between the police institution and the public. And I think the last one is seeing that the institution itself is able to provide leadership. That leadership will come from within the institution itself. And that's why I'm happy that we have reduced the ranks. Because those ranks, I think, were just stifling discussions.
Yes.
So we were too much focused on the titles than the service itself.
Okay.
So moving forward, I think those are the pillars that we'll be looking at. That the police institution is able to provide leadership. And to do that, we have to continue protecting the police institution from political interference.
Yes, interference.
And that's why, moving forward, we're saying even those amendments being proposed to reduce the powers of the Police Service Commission are dangerous to this country. Because it is because of the National Police Service that we are doing vetting. If there's no National Police Commission, I don't think we would be able to hack this one. So the National Police Service Commission is critical.
It's critical
to policing reforms in this country.
And remember, a few months ago, we had a few cases of former police officers being involved in crime. And somebody here, Baraza Bifoli Tom on Twitter, is talking about this vetting could increase the country's insecurity due to retired officers. Those who in this process are found unfit to continue are thrown out. Then they some could become the best of the thugs, of the bad people. Why? Because they understand, how best to perhaps execute a crime without being caught. So what do you have to say about that concern by the viewer?
You see, I left the military about 12 years ago. And up to today, I hear reports from my local chief that the military intelligence had come to ask about my whereabouts, where I am, what I'm doing. The chief is a relative, so it's easy for him to tell me. I wonder why the police would have a problem accounting for its retired officers. Because when we employ them, we know which village they came from, we know the name of their clan, the tribe. All the police should be able to do, and the Kavulundi Commission can even learn from the military, is to hold these men accountable until their death. Because many of them are retired, we still pay them pension. So they cannot say, they fired me. If we retired them honorably, they went away with gratuities. So they cannot entirely say, this country mistreated me, and to take the gun and go shoot somebody at the end of the street. We should be able to have a mechanism. And I don't know why the police would have a problem with that. They have the best of intelligence, even more experienced than the military intelligence. The military intelligence just watches over its military men. The police watches over everybody else. So the intelligence and the NIS should keep track of every retired officer.
But as you said, the structures are yet to be established. If somebody's going to serve 30 years and they're still in the same position, then how will they keep track of the people who, the bad seeds?
What I think is once they establish the system, like the military one, it works. I mean, it's just an issue of setting the ball rolling. And I think what we are seeing from the commission now is very impressive. We should not allow these men to go unaccounted for. Wherever they go, if they join the UN, if they go to the village, if they start a business, the military intelligence know what I do today. They keep asking my chief where I am, and I think they have their own way of, just in case I go into something bad, they will be quick to ask me.
Be able to catch on your views?
I would agree with him that we Kenyans should hold the Inspector General of Police and the chairperson of the National Police Service Commission responsible for these men who leave the service. There should be a clear database. Now we have technology, so there's no excuse about how to track these particular officers. One of the biggest problems that we've been having within the police service is the keeping of proper records. Whether it is proper records of officers who are serving or officers who have left the service. I mean, talk about somebody who served for 30 years as a constable. That's grossly unfair. Absolutely. I mean, they must have done something good in the 30 years to get commendation and get a promotion. But the lack of professionalized human resource management has been one of the problems within the service. And so we are looking at a situation whereby there will be a clear database and a clear follow-up on a regular basis and very consistently of all the officers who have left the service. But remember, and I think we need to underline this, that each one of us as citizens are responsible for our own behavior. Whether it is a civilian, whether it is a former military officer, whether it is a former police officer, if you break the law, you should be held to account, regardless of what position you hold in this country.
Okay.
So we shouldn't be intimidated by being told that, oh, those who leave the service will become criminals. If they become criminals, the law will go for them, will go after them. So I think we should be clear about that the commission should be supported to continue doing their job without hesitation.
All right. Gentlemen, as we bring this to a close, it's important to also look at the service we have in modern day Kenya today and the challenges it faces in, fighting insecurity. What and how different is that with Kenya at 50 from the service we had of force then, in the years past, 30 years ago, with terrorism, Westgate, and all manner of things we've seen, 98. What do we need to also up, our game, the service, and the training in what we're making and getting this service officers prepared for and aware of as they serve Kenyans and the country?
Kenya at 50, when we began, we were not 40 million. We were a few millions.
Right.
Now, the ratio of the policeman versus the civilian right now has completely expanded, so much so that the police are constrained. But the new government came in and the last budget we had about 69 billion given to the police for kitting and welfare and other things. In the new budget, I saw the proposals in the paper today, in one of the dailies.
Yes.
They have still gotten a lion's share, about 64 billion. It's still under discussion by the Treasury and the stakeholders. So we need to kit the police well, because when we can't increase their numbers, but I think the Jubilee government said they would increase their numbers. When we can't increase their numbers, the other way to feel for that is to give them critical tooling, tool them sufficiently to the point that one officer can still perform the duties of almost, say, two officers, with a good vehicle, good firearms. We should encourage the police to have less lethal options, the use of pepper spray, taser guns, as opposed to using bullets, in quelling this street protest and all that. So I see a new police coming, and I think it has started.
Okay. Kiama?
For me, the measure of success of police reforms at the end of it, in terms of Kenya past 50, is that we have a national police service that is concerned about public safety and security, not about protecting the powers that be. I think the police service has been used and misused in terms of protecting the powers that be. We should reorient this service completely to public safety and security in partnership with Kenyans, wherever they are in their villages or their neighborhoods. And that's what we like to see. I would like to one day wake up, on my street and say hi and shake hands with a police officer who patrols my street.
Yes.
And maybe even offer a hot cup of coffee in the morning and say, hi, how are you, sir? Thanks for taking care of us. Now I can't do it. I'm not sure how they're going to behave if I go and shake hands. Actually, the officer is suspicious of me going to shake hands. This guy must be up to something. We would like to remove that perception so that we are partners in this particular endeavor.
Okay.
And that's why they changed the name from force
to service.
Yeah,
because force sounds like, it's gonna,
use of force.
People.
They should be able to retrain our policemen.
Right.
One of the things you mentioned is the present day terror threat.
Challenges.
We cannot continue to train these men and women in Kiganja or wherever else with the same tactics of the Kenya before 50. We should update our training manuals just as we update everything else in the country as we become digital. I was shocked the other day to know there are policemen serving who have never seen a grenade.
Wow.
They have never seen it. When you expect them not only to have seen, but to exploded, many of them, like we did in the military, during training, you throw it and just see how it explodes. As it falls, you fall on the ground. So our policemen are being caught in situations that they are not adequately prepared for. But I think now and going forward, we're going to see change. At the top, as I close, is we need to have a vibrant police command that is, first of all, passionate for what they do.
Right.
We should have an officer there who cannot sleep when he thinks his counterpart in Baragoi, his counterpart in as far as Garissa or beyond is sleeping in a Mabati house. We should have men that love these men, who are fathers. One officer said he was a father to his men. Now that's what we want. We want Akimayo and many others that will succeed him, who love the police and want to see change in the police.
Yes.
Not men who are there to enrich themselves. And now and going forward, we are going to hold these men accountable. Tutafuata, we will follow their money. If they hide money with their sons, we will catch them up. If they hide it with their uncles, we will catch them up. Thank God for free media. We will investigate you. You cannot serve in the police and extort from this nation anymore. That is in the past.
All right. Your final closing remarks, sir.
My final closing remark would be basically to appeal to Kenyans to come forward, support the commission, submit information in confidence. The commission is receiving the information in confidence.
In confidence.
If they're not able to, then they can also talk to us. We have given our numbers, our contacts. They should be able to get to us, to hold their hand and walk them to the commission to submit information.
Okay.
Because we are coming from a situation whereby it wasn't easy to hold police officers accountable. So I'd really appeal to Kenyans to ensure the success of this process by engaging robustly in the process.
All right, very well said. Thank you very much, Peter Kiama, Director, IMLU, and of course Mwenda Mbijiwe, who's a security expert, counter-terrorism trainer as well. We appreciate you both for being with us this morning. Police vetting, police in itself, the service. Good that I've actually changed the name from force. Force
Yes,
sounds
thank
like this,
you.
but we're going to beat up the whole country by service. And we hope as we go forward, we will see those changes that are very important for the efficiency of the police in the country. Thank you for being part of the show.